News Radio 710 Keel is your news and weather station.
This is the Bishop of the Catholic Diocese of Shreveport, Michael Duca. I can't thank you enough for joining us so early. I know you're en route to, South Louisiana, right?
That's right. Good morning.
Morning. We have to ask you, we've seen some bishops issue statements that we won't be performing gay weddings in Catholic churches. First off, your reaction to Friday's ruling, were you surprised at all?
Well, not completely surprised. Obviously, we had hoped for a different outcome. It's disappointing because actually what the court did was give the right to marry, but in giving the right to marry, they also changed, some people might positively broaden, but they changed the definition of marriage, and that puts it in opposition with our Catholic and many Christian churches' understanding of marriage. And so it's difficult. I mean, we right now legally are exempt. We don't have to do gay marriages. We in the church here in Shreveport, I guess any Catholic bishop, will not be blessing or witnessing gay marriages. But it is disappointing. It's at odds with the law of the land in some ways.
The bishop in Lafayette, and I'm quoting, urges Catholics not to attend same-sex marriage ceremonies. Would you agree with that?
I believe we need to not give our support to those marriages. But I also know families are in very difficult situations oftentimes, when it comes down to choosing between their faith and their children, for example, But I think just to go to any gay marriage, any situation where you might lend support would be something I would discourage, obviously, among my people as well.
Bishop Duca, I believe it was in the majority decision, they wrote that people of faith, in reference to the legalization of gay marriages, that people of faith will still be allowed to advocate and teach their beliefs. On the other hand, the First Amendment says exercise freedom of religion. There's kind of a gap there, don't you think?
Well, this will be the interesting thing, how this plays out in many different ways. First of all will be how it will affect, for example, government contracts, subsidies, maybe even down to how schools are accredited. I don't know that those are going to be problems, but they might be. I know in some places where this has happened, I believe the public preaching against gay marriage would be considered either discriminatory or, in some places, some people might even say hate speech. Those have not happened here yet. We'll see, but I think those are all concerns down the line. I think right now we just need to continue to proclaim what we believe about marriage and the importance that marriage between a man and woman is unique unto itself, and that will be kind of our definition of marriage, and what we'll proceed with that kind of understanding. You
mentioned earlier in our conversation, you said as of now the Catholic Church is exempt from performing gay marriages. A, explain that to everybody why that's the case. B, do you expect that to continue to be the case? And jumping forward, is there concern on your part that at some point there could be discrimination lawsuits and or an attempt to remove tax-exempt status from Catholic churches?
Well, I think in terms of the church's ability to operate within its own church building, I really don't foresee that those rights and privileges will be challenged. Obviously, under this administration, the understanding of what constitutes the church has been narrowed down to just what goes on in that church building. So I don't think that's going to happen. The difficulty is that in our country, the Catholic priest or the Christian minister is also the one who marries. He's the official witness of the state as well. So there's a combination here that I represent the state also when I marry someone. I sign the marriage license, for example. In some countries, that's not the case. This will not change the way we will do marriages. It might change the way we are involved with the state. We may no longer be the official agent of the state in a marriage. That might change. But the more we're separated from that direct contact, the more I think our rights will be protected. Now, in terms of the other thing, in terms of losing tax-exempt status, that's another area that's a vulnerability that we'll have to see how that plays out down the line. Because if, for example, if you're preaching against something the government says is a legal right, then the government simply may say, well, we no longer hold you as a tax exempt. Now, that's very possible. I don't see that down the line, but it's very possible. thing.
Let me ask you this: there are obviously Catholics who are gay.
Yes.
What is your message to them? And B, have you had any requests yet to perform gay marriages in the Catholic Church in Shreveport yet?
No, not that I know of. No priest has talked to me about that, or I've not had any personal requests to myself. This is a difficulty. If we have nothing against people coming together in relationships that are chaste and good, maybe lasting friendships and relationships even of love that are chaste. But the problem is that in this society that things are so sexualized is that relationships are in challenge. And for example, let me go at this a different way maybe. We challenge everyone to follow the gospel teaching of Jesus, to be chaste in their relationships. That's challenging for everybody, okay? It's challenging for single people. It's challenging for marriages. It's challenging for people that are divorced and people that are gay. It's a challenge for all of us to deal with our sexuality in a very chaste way, okay? So everybody's got the same problem. Everyone's got the same issue. The question is whether or not someone really lets the gospel be their guide, or is it just something they simply avoid, say, well, that's outdated, I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's where we become problem. I have no problem talking with someone, counseling them, journeying with them, and seeking to become more and more a chaste person in light of Christ's teaching and the church's teaching. But when someone simply says, well, no, I want it this way, well, then I have to back away and say, okay, well, when you want to follow this, then come follow them, come and see. But right now, a person puts themselves in opposition to the church teaching. And we don't change because the law changes. We don't change because someone wants something different. We change. We only proclaim what we have received, you might say. And so we only pass on to others that teaching of Jesus. That makes sense.
Bishop Duca, I read an article this weekend by a Midwestern minister, and he said Christians in the United States, Christians in the USA are becoming more and more exiled in their own nation. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think you cannot assume that we're in a culture now that is, in all respects, going to reflect the Christian teaching. And that's a difficulty that we'll have to come to grips with. There's a kind of grieving process, I think, that goes on to feel that there's some areas now which are in opposition to some of the laws of the land. And that's a difficult thing to reflect upon, although, we find our ultimate joy and hope in our faith. And so we are not undone. We are not put down. But it is a moment for pause and for reflection, definitely.
Quote from the Pope. Just read this to you, and it may be taken out of context. I'm not sure. When I meet a gay person, I have to distinguish between their being gay and being part of a lobby. If they accept the Lord and have goodwill, who am I to judge them? They should not be marginalized. Is this a change?
No. It's just when I went back, what I said just recently, just a few minutes ago. Whenever I meet anyone, believe me, everybody that comes to church, comes to communion, everybody that comes is a sinner. Everyone there is challenged by the gospel. Everyone there is not perfect in living what it means to be a Christian. But everybody that comes to church usually, I don't judge them for being imperfect. I don't judge them for being a sinner. I don't judge them for choosing things that go against the church teachings. But if they're willing to journey with the Lord, if they're willing to take that journey with me, I'm glad to walk with them. Sometimes it takes people years to get themselves kind of right in many different ways. But we don't judge them in the sense that ostracize them. We want them to come to hear the gospel and to journey with them as they move and conform their lives to be more like Christ. And so he wasn't saying that. He was just saying that our first meeting of everyone should not be judgment, but should be acceptance. Come and see what the Lord has to offer. Come and see what the Lord wants to teach us. And someone who does that in good faith, I'm glad to journey with them. The Pope is glad to journey with them during their faith journey. But they come to me and say, well, I don't want to do that. Well, then what can I do then? I mean, I've tried to accept them, but they've turned away and chosen another path.
Shreveport Catholic Bishop Michael Duca, I can't thank you enough for your time today, sir.
Well, thank you, and it's good to see you, and hope you have a good day.
You have a safe trip, too.
All right, thank you.